The map depicted the Atlantic Ocean, the familiar coastlines of Europe and Africa, and something more, a long, strangely shaped landmass at the southern edge, one that made everyone in the room deeply uneasy. According to everything modern geography understood, that land should not exist.
This was the Piri Reis map. If artifacts could smirk, this one would never stop. The man behind the mystery was Piri Reis, an Ottoman admiral, navigator, and hardened sailor born around 1465. He learned the sea the hard way, sailing alongside his uncle, a famed corsair who fought, traded, and sometimes stole ships for the empire. That connection was crucial. Corsairs had access to the most valuable currency of the age, other people's maps. In 1513, Piri Reis compiled a world map focusing on the western half of the known world. He made no claim of personal discovery. Instead, he did something far more intriguing. He meticulously cited his sources. The surviving fragment shows not only lands already familiar to European explorers, but a southern continent that looks uncannily like Antarctica, ice-free and detailed decades before the continent was officially discovered. Before imaginations run wild, let's pause. Yes, the map includes South America less than 25 years after Columbus reached the Caribbean, an impressive feat for its time. But the real mystery is that southern land.
Piri Reis left notes explaining that his map was drawn from some 20 older charts, Portuguese maps of Africa and India, Arab maps from the Indian Ocean, one drawn by Columbus himself, or at least copied from his crew, and, most intriguingly, maps already ancient by 1513, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Historians sat up straighter. The Piri Reis map fascinates for 3 reasons. First, its accuracy is startling. The coastlines of Africa and South America are rendered with a precision that feels ahead of its time. Latitudes are remarkably solid. Longitudes are imperfect, but that was a global issue until reliable clocks were invented. Second, it documents lost knowledge. Piri Reis was a compiler, not an inventor. Many of his sources are gone, destroyed, decayed, or perhaps reused as wrapping paper for fish centuries ago. Some scholars believe these lost maps may trace back to the legendary Library of Alexandria or its intellectual heirs. Knowledge has a way of migrating, even when libraries burn. And third, there's that southern coastline. In the 1950s, a U.S. Navy officer named Charles Hapgood saw the map and had a visceral reaction. That looks like Antarctica. More specifically, like Antarctica without ice, a continent whose true shape wasn't fully mapped until the mid-20th century using seismic technology. Hapgood proposed that the map was based on ancient sources crafted by a sophisticated pre-Ice Age civilization. The Internet has loved that theory ever since. But let's gently set the tinfoil hat aside. Most historians argue that the Antarctica on the Piri Reis map isn't Antarctica at all. It's likely South America, drawn too far south, blended with educated guesses about Terra Australis, the theoretical southern continent early cartographers were certain must exist. When you expect a continent, you tend to draw one. Also, the map fragment is incomplete. We're judging a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Even without ancient civilizations or Atlantean secrets, the map remains extraordinary. It reveals uncomfortable truths about history. Knowledge traveled faster than we often assume. Within decades of Columbus's voyages, detailed geographic knowledge had already reached the Ottoman Empire. This wasn't a one-way European triumph. It was a web of shared information crossing borders, languages, and empires. Piri Reis himself was no mere artist sketching coastlines. He was a scholar. He named his sources, critiqued inaccuracies, and understood the mathematical challenge of projecting a round world onto flat parchment.
This was science, done with ink, experience, and a keen eye. He did not die celebrated. In 1553, he was executed after falling out of political favor. His maps were forgotten. His writings sat, ignored on shelves. If he knew that 5 centuries later people would argue over ice-free Antarctica on his gazelle skin map, he'd likely be both confused and mildly amused. The Peary race map endures because it hints that the past knew more than we assume. It dangles the possibility of lost worlds. It is real, dated, signed, and studied, not some fantasy relic. The mystery isn't whether it exists, but what it truly represents. Ultimately, the map's greatest lesson is about the fragility of knowledge. Maps are copies of copies. Libraries burn, sailors die, empires fall. And yet, somehow, a single piece of gazelle skin survives, just long enough to make modern scholars argue over coastlines and wonder what else has been lost to time. That is the real mystery.